So one day he was in the meditation hall doing a question and answer session, and someone asked him, how long should I pay attention to physical pain before I move my attention to something that's easier to be with? Maybe listening to sound, or doing loving kindness, or feeling some other place in my body. And this is also a very symbolic question, because we use mindfulness of physical pain as a template for dealing with emotional pain, psychological pain, all kinds of things. So it's a pretty profound question. How long should I pay attention to physical pain before I move my attention to something that's easier to be with? And I thought, given his personality, he was going to say, you should be with the pain till you fall over. I really did. And much to my surprise, he said, don't be with it for very long. He said, be with the pain, move your attention to something that's easier to be with, then come back and be with the pain. Move your attention to something that's easier to be with. He said, it's not that it's wrong to just be with the pain and be with the pain and be with the pain, but you'll likely get exhausted. So he said, why not build in balance all along the way? And I was sitting there thinking, boy, if those words are coming out of his mouth, it must really be true, because he is like the furthest thing in the universe from someone who would say something just to do like a little comforting of somebody. Like thinking, oh, you can't do the real thing, so I'll give you this little remedial exercise, and it'll make you feel a little better, and maybe someday you can do the real thing. It's like, never. That is the real thing. It's like, the idea is not to endure, the idea is not to break, the idea is to have a different relationship to pleasure and pain. And so I take that lesson into a lot of other realms. Not that it's easy, one of the problems with balance, the word balance, is that it's not a fixed thing. It takes a lot of intuition and looking and shifting, and it may not be the same all the time by any means, but I really do believe that without it, we're not going to last. It is too overwhelming. And so, I also, when I was teaching yesterday, I said, as a writer and a teacher, but especially as a writer, I've been very reluctant to use the example that I feel like a million of my colleagues have used, which is, it's such a good example. But it feels so overused to me at this point, which is, if you're sitting on an airplane and the flight attendant is making the safety announcements, and they say if the cabin pressure changes and the oxygen mask drops down, put your own mask on first before you try to help someone else. And I think, oh, it's such a good example, but it's so overused, and I can't really use it. It's such a cliche. And then I was telling that just to a friend of mine who's a writer, and she said, oh, that's interesting. She said, I was sitting on an airplane not long ago, and the flight attendant made that announcement, and this person sitting next to me said, I could never do that. I could never put my own mask on first. And I thought, ooh, that's even more interesting now, Maybe I can use it, because there's so much there. It's so hard for us. It feels so much like selfishness. It feels so wrong. But if we look realistically, it's what you gotta do. Or it's too exhausting. It's just too much. So there's a lot in there.